Welcome to the Pointy End. I'm Keith Sutherland. Today my guest is Penney Wilkinson, Chair of the Community Foundation for Central Victoria, and welcome to the program.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Keith. It's terrific.
Now we've got some exciting news, or you have, to tell us about the big give, raising $83,183,000 now. When it was first mooted, I thought, how's this going to work?
Yeah.
It seemed to be too complicated, and how did it come about? Because that was an amazing amount of money for a first up effort.
Oh, look, it was just, we're still on a high, and it's a month since the day of the big give on the 1st of September. And over the bulk of that 83,000 was raised in one day. What was special about it from my point of view, that there were 73 community organisations that we gave them a platform to tell their story, to tell the community, this is why we're important, this is what's special about us. And so while $83,000 collectively they've raised over that short period of time is an awesome result, and really it just surpassed every expectation that we had. I guess the other big thing is that 73 organisations across, not-for-profit organisations across our community, thousands and thousands of people that live in our community know a little bit more about them, and so they've got a connection that they wouldn't have had otherwise, and that's real value to those organisations on top of that $83,000. So it was stellar. You can tell, I'm still so excited
and
about the big
rightfully so,
give.
because it was really incredible when you think about that, when it was, as I said, first mooted, and you had 870 donors, which on an average donated $45 each. Doesn't sound a lot of money, but 870, and each of those organisations got a platform, as you said, to highlight whatever organisation they belong to, and it was just, and as you said, 73 organisations really got in, did something. Some didn't raise a lot, but some did.
Some went above and beyond.
Yeah, that's right. And some of the people from the regional and rural areas were the ones, and that always seems to be the case, that a community gets behind an organisation when there's something, and it's not, as you say, not-for-profit organisations, and it's not as if it's even the need, it's just that everyone gets on behind those things.
And it was a way of fundraising that was different, and I think that we've all had experience of, whether it's part of a sporting club, part of a childcare group or whatever, you're asking the same group of people for support. And not-for-profit organisations, they run off a smell of an oily rag, and that sort of, to raise money to keep them going and to sustain them and to do what they're doing is such a vital thing to do. So the Big Give was a way of fundraising differently, that extended the networks of community groups a little bit differently and a little bit more, it was using social media. Now, not many not-for-profit groups would have had experience doing that before. It gave them an opportunity to tap into networks that they didn't really know that they had, and Eastlodd and P12 we can talk about that one as an example, was a great example of tapping into a network that they didn't even know that they had. And it took pressure off those, the 20% of the people who do 80% of the fundraising. It took pressure off them and just gave an easy, effortless opportunity for a range of people to support and give to community efforts in ways that they haven't done before. So it was brilliant.
There's a uniqueness to it, because I know I had to speak to a rather large organisation in Bendigo this week to come up with something different to fundraise. They wanted to raise a lot of money. And it's hard because everybody's done everything, and it's very hard to reinvent the wheel, to come up with something different, unique. This was something that unique, and as you say, tapping into the social media part, because everyone's relied on the old ways of doing things, but the social media part, and that went berserk, and there was so much support from other people not involved in it, but other people in the community.
And I need to admit up front, I am a bit of a dinosaur as far as social media goes, but much of our community isn't. And I think where we saw real gains is where social media played a role in sharing and liking and through that activity profiling the campaigns that were being launched by those 73 organisations. That message just got out, it compounded to an extent that face-to-face contact, the traditional ways of fundraising just can't extend that and capture that sort of reach. So there were some organisations that just blew us away in how well and how extensive they could promote their campaigns through social media. It's terrific.
We've come a long way, haven't we? The whole world has changed, whereby the old ways of doing things, television, the media, the newspapers and things like this is all different now, and social media is probably the way of the future, obviously, no question about that. But you've got to be able to tap in, you've got to understand it, and we live in a different world, which is a good thing.
That's right,
We're moving forward. Now, who were the larger people, the larger organisations to raise the most money? And I know you also had another part to it whereby there were prizes during the day. City of Greater Bendigo donated some money and other organisations did. But who were the larger sort of people, organisations that raised the most on that particular day?
Well, we organised the big give in terms of categories, Keith, so that, you know, the smaller not-for-profit organisations that might have had a core membership of about 20 people and no staff weren't competing against those larger corporations such as Bendigo Health, for example. So we categorised it. In the larger organisations, East Loddon P12 killed it across the board. They absolutely killed it. Through their own networks, they raised almost $14,000. Wow. They set out to raise $5,000. From memory, that campaign was all about upgrading their gyms to include some blackout curtains so that they can extend the purpose and the range of purposes that the gyms used for performances and speech nights, so that when you're doing a performance you can black it out and you can't see the netball court lines and the basketball court lines, which is what we all know school gyms look like.
Why were they so successful at doing that? Because, as you say, that's a country area, but people do support it, but there's got to be a reason.
Well, what's unique about Bendigo, East Loddon P12 is that it literally sits in the middle of a paddock. It is P12, so prep to year 12, and so the school community, the students of the schools all travel by bus. No one walks to school at East Loddon. So I guess with that and with the isolation that comes from where they're based, there is a very strong school community. And that extends not just to current school students, but past students and families that have had a previous connection with the schools, they're alumni, if you like. So unlike every other fundraising effort that the school has done previously, such as their DEB, their school fair that they have every year, where the lion's share of resources comes from families who have students currently at the school, the lion's share of the funds raised through the big gives was its past students and people that had a real sort of heart, just like the doggies, they had a heart connection to that community. So what was amazing about East Loddon, and their catchment is Midiamo, Serpentine, Bears Lagoon, parts of Raywood. So this is a community that has been ravaged by drought, community that's now at risk of flood, and families are doing it hard, and I think we all get that. The average donation for the East Loddon was around about the $500 mark.
Wow,
it's incredible. There was an anonymous donor who lives well outside of this region, whose family grew up in that area. She gave $1,000.
Terrific.
Now, you can't ask for someone, you can't, traditional fundraising, you say, look, we're trying to raise money, can you give me $1,000? I can't give you anything other than you'll feel good about making it. You can't have that conversation, but they had a message that really talked about why the school was special. They involved their students, especially the young students, to say, this is what's awesome about our school. And they just appealed to the heart with past students.
What a great experience for those kids, because that's something that you don't really learn at school.
That's right.
But that feeling of being involved at that young age, giving, to give is to receive, and that's a terrific learning experience for them.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I know that they are continuing a conversation with the donors from the Big Give, so they've already let those that donated know how they're actually using their support. They raised far in excess of what they planned to do, so they're extending that to storage. They're letting them know that the work's started, and this is all about
engagement.
That's right. Fundraising isn't an event.
No.
It's about how you build a relationship with the donors, and at a range of levels. I really do think Eastland and P12 have just nailed it.
Full marks to them.
Yeah.
Now, because it was so successful, is this going to be an annual event, or so like some of these things, you start off with a big bang, and then the enthusiasm wanes? But
we hope so. Yeah, and I guess I'm saying that without any certainty. Is the space that the foundation's currently at is putting some reflection and going through some evaluation, so that we can really get a sense of what worked, what didn't work, what might we need to think about. You said quite rightly when we first started talking about the concept of Big Give, it was complex, and we've got to keep it simple. And I think the message about everyone having a role to play to support community fabric, which is the not-for-profit community efforts, that appeals to everyone. So we've got to make that message really simple. Only earlier this week we found out we were successful in getting some funding support from FRRR, which is the Foundation for Rural and Regional Renewal. Right. They've given us money to fund evaluation so we can do it properly. And so we're going to appoint a local consultancy to put some real rigour on evaluation, so that hopefully next year or the next event is just as it builds off this first one and makes the next one really stronger, targeted, and becomes has a better impact for our community. We're also using that money to make a video so that we can tell the story, not just the story.
Well, it's a template.
Yeah, that's right. Because foundations, fundraising, it's not just Central Victoria, it's in this business. Everyone has an... so we really think that there's a story to be told more broadly and nationally. It hadn't been done in Australia before, the Big Give, and so we really do think as a foundation we've got an obligation and a responsibility to share what we've learnt, to tell the story, and to let that seed ideas and innovations elsewhere. So that's a terrific outcome for us.
Terrific.
Yeah.
And you also had some great support from organisations, media, sponsors, Southern Cross, City of Greater Bendigo, the Wellington, the Borough Club, Bendigo Stadium. So a lot of people that have contributed to your success and promoting it, giving some money for prizes and things like this. So it's great when organisations other than those that are trying to raise the funds get involved. So
and it's hard to get, isn't it? Yeah,
it's more difficult because everybody's fundraising at the same time. It never stops. And why is yours different? So that's the difficulty.
Yeah, and I think up front, the City of Greater Bendigo Stadium and Southern Cross also played, they were major sponsors, and they played a huge role in actually helping us make it happen. And then we had, as you say, we had some supporters during the day that helped incentivise all of the fundraising, and that's where Beck Legal, Simmons, Telstra really came to shine and helped sort of get the momentum and get some action and activity and excitement happening. So their support was brilliant. I reckon the fact that it was different, that these guys stuck their neck out, and credit and greatest thanks to them to have a crack at something different. And we've got to do that. We've got to try different stuff so that we can I guess help Bendigo and Central Victoria sort of really continue and maintain the innovation, the connection and the culture that we just love about this place. About let's be innovative. What might that do, and what benefit might that have for our town? And I'll sort of finish as I started. I loved it. I've just loved every aspect of it, Keith. It was brilliant.
Well, Penny, thank you so much for appearing on the Pointy End today. Congratulations to yourself as chair, to the organisation. All those groups, the 73 organisations are involved in it, and everybody else, because it was a huge success. First off, and to finish 83,000 in front is just amazing. So congratulations to everyone involved, and thank you for appearing on the program today.
Thanks so much for your support, Keith. It's brilliant. Thanks.
Thank you.